It is a conflict between capitalism and community. Those two things are in direct conflict with one another. Capitalism tells us we reward you for taking financial risk, for pursuing personal wealth. But at the same time, we have to think about how do we empower and help our community? And how do you reconcile being on a personal pursuit for your own individual wealth and positioning yourself to help your community? How can you do both when they're both in direct conflict? How do we find peace between capitalism and community? Greetings and welcome to Walking in Wealth. I'm your host, JD Garnier, and you are listening to KKNO K75 AM and 107.1 FM radio in New Orleans, unmistakably Christian radio. I hope you had a productive week in your wealth creation journey. And listen, the path won't be easy and the road won't be smooth, but we are committed to walking in wealth. Once again, I'm thankful for the opportunity to share with you again this week. First things first, if you are not following me on social media, please follow me on Instagram at Garnier JD, Facebook at JD Garnier, and Twitter at JD Garnier1. That's JDGarnier. And please subscribe to the Walking in Wealth Melanomics YouTube channel. Now listen, I know I say that every week, but if you like my message, if you enjoy what I'm saying, if you think that the things that I talk about are relevant to yourself, to the people that you care about, to your community, I need your help. I need you to share my content. I need you to go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, share my videos with everybody that you know. I need you to tune into this radio station on every Monday and Wednesday at 9 a.m. Share it to the people that you love, to the people that you care about. That's the only way that this message is going to get out. It's only going to get out if you expose it, if you share it to the people that need to hear it. That's the only way that we're going to change the mindset collectively. So again, subscribe to the Walking in Wealth Melanomics YouTube channel. Follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And let's get this message out. Let's change our mindset collectively, and let's walk in wealth as a community. Also, if you need somebody to empower your organization, inspire your staff, or galvanize your team, please contact me for speaking engagements. No organization is too big or too small for me to add value or impact. Now, I hope you guys miss me. I've been off for the last couple of weeks. Took some time off just to finish out the summer with my family. Make sure my kids got settled in school. But also, I just wanted to take a step back and reflect and just think. There's a lot of things that are going on in this world right now, in this country. And a lot of them, I think, are relevant to the things I talk about, both directly and indirectly. Walking in wealth is both about our personal journey in our pursuit of wealth, but it's also about our collective community journey to shift and change our mindset in a way that helps all of us grow, all of us become better. And, we see all of these things going on in this world, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the increase in crime. There's so many things that distract us, that scare us, that bring fear to us and keep us off of our mission. And honestly, I think that there's a major conflict. We live in a capitalistic society. We live in a society that rewards the pursuit of wealth, the pursuit of financial gain. But there's a serious conflict going on. And it's not a racial conflict. It's not a political conflict. It's not a cultural conflict. It is a conflict between capitalism and community. And if you think about it, those two things are in direct conflict with one another. Because capitalism tells us we reward you for taking financial risk, for pursuing personal wealth, for doing the things necessary to increase your net worth, to grow your finances and your money. We reward those types of behaviors. But at the same time, we have to think about how do we empower and help our community? And how do you reconcile being on a personal pursuit for your own individual wealth and positioning yourself to help your community? How can you do both when they're both in direct conflict with one another? And I think that that's something that plays a huge part in a lot of the things that we see going on. It plays a huge part in the crime. It plays a huge part in the corruption, in the distrust of one another. Because if we are all on an individual pursuit for capitalism, for riches, for wealth, to grow our personal net worth, how can we at the same time be on a pursuit to improve our community? Because to improve the lives of people around you, in some cases, you have to sacrifice something. You have to give up something. But if you're on a pursuit for personal wealth, sacrifice and giving up something for the greater good affects your ability to grow your wealth. So those things are in direct conflict. Our capitalistic society and our community mindset conflict with one another. And that's a problem that we didn't have in the 50s and 60s and in some cases the 70s, because the community was set. And at that time, the Black community was not a part of the capitalistic society because the laws prevented us from doing that. And so during that time, there was no conflict because the community is all we had. And even when we had businesses and even when we had things that helped us increase our wealth, it was always set in the foundation of the community. But when things shifted and integration opened up financial and economic opportunities, we begin to pursue those individual opportunities at the detriment of the community. And so now we sit here today and we have these two things that are important. Capitalism, our pursuit of our own personal wealth and personal interests, and community. Helping our brother, helping our sister, helping our family, making sure that the things we do represent and empower not just ourselves, but the people in our community. But both of these things are in direct conflict. And so how do we reconcile that? How do we solve that problem? How do we find harmony between the two? How do we find peace between capitalism and community? And it's not an easy thing, right? It's not an easy thing because we all have something that we want to pursue individually. Especially in this country, we want to pursue a certain level of wealth and riches, and we have dreams and goals that we have. How do we reconcile that while at the same time making certain that we're doing the things necessary to uplift the community? How do we find that peace? Well, the answer is in how you conduct yourself as a person. It is in the thing that I talk about all the time, which is mindset. And I always make it a point to distinguish the difference between wealth and riches. Because if you are in the pursuit of wealth, there can be no pursuit or reconciliation with the community. Because the pursuit of wealth is the accumulation. It is the accumulation of resources and money. When you're pursuing riches, you're pursuing the accumulation of resources and money. And if that is your goal, there really are no rules that govern how you pursue that. Wealth is the separation of time and money. And the goal of wealth and the goal of riches are two different things. And so, how do we reconcile capitalism and community? The definition of capitalism is an economic or political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. That's the country we live in. Capitalism. Everything that we do is in a pursuit for profit. And the definition of community is a feeling or fellowship with others as a result of sharing a common attitudes, interests, and goals. So how can you be on a pursuit for profit and also have a fellowship of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals for other people, and those things not be in conflict? How do you find peace? Well, the answer to that question is we need a code of conduct, a code of ethics, a standard in which we pursue our individual profits, a standard in which we pursue our individual goals. Once we set a standard, then we can pursue those individual goals within the context of the community. And what is that standard? What is that peace? PEACE. The first standard are principles. You have to have a set of principles, a core foundation of what you stand for, a core set of principles of integrity, things that you stand for, regardless of what circumstance you find yourself in life, regardless of what situation you find yourself in, a core set of principles that you have decided that you are going to live by. If you don't have a core set of principles, you're almost willing to do anything. If you don't have a core set of principles, you can be swayed in any direction. You can be persuaded. You can be manipulated because you don't have a core set of principles that govern how you move throughout life. And so if we want to be able to still pursue our individual interests, but still keep in mind the empowerment and upliftment of the community, we have to have a set of principles, both individually and collectively as a community. But it starts with the individual. So my question is, what do you stand for? What are your principles? What do you believe in? You have to have a set of principles. But once you have your set of principles, the next thing you need are a code of ethics. See, principles is what you stand for individually. Ethics are the rules that govern and dictate how you interact with other people. What is your standard of care? What is your duty to your fellow brother and sister? What are your ethics? What type of person are you? Are you a person that when you say you're going to do something, do you do it? Do you make promises that you can't keep? When you tell somebody something, do you give them all of the information or do you give them just enough information for them to decide without telling them everything that they need to know? What are your ethics? You know, most professions, I'm a licensed attorney by trade. I'm also a certified financial planner. But whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or any of those, a certified accountant, each of those professions has a code of ethics that those professionals are accountable to. And they have to meet those code of ethics. If they breach those codes of ethics, they put their licenses at risk. And it's important to have those ethics because those people have a certain amount of power, whether it's over people's lives or their finances or their health. And if they just govern themselves based on their own principles, those principles may conflict with the situation. But if there's an overarching code of ethics in how you deal with and how you react with other people, that's going to govern the situation. And those code of ethics are going to hold you to a standard that cannot be breached, that cannot be overtaken. Do you have a code of ethics that you live by when you're dealing with people? Do you deal with in honesty and fair dealings? I don't care if it's a coworker, if it's a business colleague. See, when we're talking about wealth and we're talking about the pursuit of capitalism and our individual pursuit for profit, if you don't have a code of ethics, you'll do anything. When you're doing business with somebody and you don't have ethics, you'll give them half truths. You won't tell them the complete story because you know that they may not do business with you. When you don't have a code of ethics, you put yourself in a position where you're willing to do anything just for the profit. You're willing to do anything just to get the sale, just to get the deal. And there's no standard by which you have to navigate that holds you up to a certain standard that you can't cross. So we all need a code of ethics. But after we have a code of ethics, we also need accountability. We have to hold ourselves accountable. You have to take personal responsibility for your actions. We have to stop this blaming game. Making every circumstance that we get in, every bad decision that we make is always somebody else's fault. We have to have a certain level of accountability. If we're going to be able to navigate this world with capitalism and community, pursuing our personal wealth, while at the same time making sure that we empower the community, we have to be personally accountable for our decisions and our actions. It cannot always be the fault of the man. It cannot always be the fault of the system. It can't always be the fault of your parents or people that weren't there for you or somebody that betrayed you. We have to have personal accountability. That's how you change your life. That's how you change things. By being personally accountable. I did a video a few months ago and I said that the person that hurt you cannot heal you. The person that is responsible for your pain does not have the power to heal that pain. If somebody stabs you with a knife, that same knife that cut you does not have the power to heal that wound. Your body has to replenish, restore itself from within, regenerate your blood and your genes and your skin, and heal itself from within. And that's the same thing with our emotional problems, with our emotional wounds, with our intellectual scars. We cannot keep blaming other people for those things. We have to be personally accountable. We have to take that. It may not be our fault, but it's our responsibility. We have to have personal accountability. When you're accountable, you're more careful about how you conduct yourself in public. You're more careful about how you conduct yourself when you're interacting with people, whether it's personal or business, because at the end of the day, whatever happens, you are responsible for it. When you take on that mindset, you are empowered because now it's nobody else's fault. It's all on you. Personal accountability. So not only do we need principles, not only do we need a code of ethics, not only do we need personal accountability, we need cooperation. We have to start cooperating with one another. We have to get along with one another. I don't care how much of an introvert you are. I don't care how much you don't trust people. If you're going to live in this society, if you're going to achieve any level of success, you are going to have to find a way to cooperate with people, to deal with people. That's the only way. We have to learn how to cooperate with one another. We may not agree with everything a person is saying. We may not agree with everything a person does. But we have to know how to cooperate with one another for the greater good of the community. See, if it's just about us, then cooperation is unnecessary. I don't have to cooperate with anybody if it's just about me in my own individual pursuit of wealth and riches. But for me to navigate between capitalism and community, I have to be able to cooperate. I can't just do my own thing and not worry or think about my brother or my sister that's next to me. I have to be able to cooperate. We have to take this animosity out of our hearts towards one another. This angst, this mistrust. Yes, you still want to keep your eyes open. Yes, you still want to protect yourself, but we have to cooperate with one another. That's the only way we're going to do all of the things that we're trying to do. We're going to have to cooperate. That's extremely important. Not only do we need principles, not only do we need a code of ethics, not only do we need personal accountability, not only do we need to learn how to cooperate, but lastly, we need empathy. We need empathy. We need to empathize. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of hurt going on in our community. There's a lot of people dealing with things that have not been resolved. There's families that haven't forgiven one another. There's things that have been done to us as children that we never got over. There's a lot of pain that's going on. We have to learn how to empathize with that. Stop judging one another. Put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and what they're dealing with. We have to have that level of empathy. See, we have to have that for other people so that other people can have that for us. Because all of us are dealing with our own pain. We dealing with our own betrayal, our own struggles, our own insecurities. And if we want other people to empathize with that, we have to show that same level of empathy. We have to put ourselves in their shoes. We have to try and understand what they're dealing with and what they're going through. This may not be the message that y'all wanted to hear, but this is the message that I had to talk about today. We need peace. We need peace. Principles, ethics, accountability, cooperation, and empathy. That's how we're going to walk in wealth as a community. That's how we're going to take ourselves to another level. It's not going to be with our net worth. If all of us in our whole community all got a check for $100,000, that's not going to change the circumstances in our community. It's not going to change the pain that we're dealing with, the scars, the insecurities, the doubt, the mistrust, the betrayals. Money is not going to solve that. We have to shift our mindset. We have to change the way that we think. And it's not just the way that we think about ourselves. It is the way that we think about one another. We need peace. Principles. We have to stand for something. We can't just live life in this world where anything goes. We have to stand for something. We need ethics, a code of conduct of how we interact with other people. We have a responsibility to others. We can't just deal with each other any old kind of way. We need a code of ethics. We need accountability. We need to hold ourselves accountable. Whatever our circumstances are, we have to take responsibility for that. I don't care what somebody else did. The person that hurt you cannot heal you. Your body heals from within. You're personally accountable. We need cooperation. We need to work with one another. Even people that we don't agree with. Even sometimes people that we don't like. We have to cooperate for the greater good of the community, the greater good of our circumstances. We have to cooperate. And we need empathy. We have to try and understand each other. We have to put ourselves in each other's shoes. This is important. When I talk about mindset, these are the types of things that I'm talking about. We have to change how we think. We have to change the way that we navigate through this world. We have to change the way that we view our vantage point, the way that we view society. All of this distrust, mistrust. That's what leads to people doing bad business deals. That's what leads to people being taken advantage of financially. But if you have a set of principles that you live by, and you make a decision that conflicts with those principles, you're going to have to change that decision. If you have a code of ethics that you follow, and there's a business opportunity that forces you to go outside of that code of ethics, you don't do that business opportunity. If something happens and you played a part in it, and you take full responsibility and accountability, then you put it on yourself to resolve it instead of blaming somebody else. So now a relationship isn't damaged. If you have to do business with somebody that you don't like, but you figure out a way to cooperate, you can still get a deal done for the greater good. And if you're dealing with somebody that you just don't see eye to eye, put yourself in their shoes. Empathize with them. Try and see it from their vantage point. You may still not agree, but at least you can understand better. These are the things that we need in our community. This is how we're going to walk in wealth. We can get to the money. We're going to talk about the money. Trust me. But the money is irrelevant if we don't change these foundational things. If we don't figure out a way to find peace. If we don't figure out a way to find peace. Principles, ethics, accountability, cooperation, and empathy. When we can do that, the money's going to come. To be honest with you, we already making the money. We spend more than any other group of people. But the velocity of the black dollar is 30 seconds. That means money comes into our community and it only stays in our community for 30 seconds before it's right out. We're going to have to change that by working together. We're going to have to change that by a standard of conduct that we have with one another that involves empathy, understanding, cooperation, accountability. We need that type of peace. And if we can have that collectively, that can set the foundation for all of us to walk in wealth. My name is JD Garnier, and I cannot wait to see you next week. Y'all have a good week. Be blessed.